Imagine, you open your eyes, it's cold. So cold the air cuts your lungs with every breath. Around you, an endless icy plain. No houses, no supermarkets. And the scariest part? It's currently summer. It only gets worse from here. Welcome to the Ice Age. 20,000 years ago. And here's the thing. 99% of you wouldn't survive even the first week. Sounds exaggerated? Give me a couple of minutes. Doctors say that at minus 20 degrees, without shelter, you have about 2 to 3 hours before irreversible hypothermia sets in. 2 hours, about the length of a movie, except instead of popcorn, you get frostbite. Now imagine, you have no jacket. All you have is your own skin and whatever's lying around. And here's the real problem. It wasn't mammoths. It wasn't saber-toothed tigers. The scariest enemy of prehistoric humans was air temperature. But that wasn't even the biggest problem, because cold doesn't last one night. It's a condition that drags on for months. Your body is basically a small furnace. It needs fuel, food, to hold a temperature of 98.6 degrees. But where do you find food when plants aren't growing and animals are gone somewhere warmer? You end up in a vicious cycle. To stay warm, you need food. To get food, you have to go out into the cold. So how did people solve this? First, fire. It had to be maintained around the clock. If it went out at night, morning might never come. Second, clothing. And here's where it gets genuinely wild. As early as 40,000 years ago, people were sewing multi-layered clothing with bone needles. And here's something nobody talks about. One theory for why Neanderthals went extinct while we survived comes down to clothing. Neanderthals just wrapped themselves in hides. Our ancestors sewed. At minus 30 degrees, that minor detail decided whether you'd have descendants at all. Third, shelter. Forget the cozy caves from cartoons. On open plains, people built houses out of mammoth bones. Seriously. Entire huts found in present-day Ukraine, assembled from dozens of mammoth bones. Amazing fact, building a hut like that meant taking apart the remains of several mammoths. Hunting wasn't just about meat. It was construction material for years ahead. Bone analysis from this period shows many people suffered from conditions linked to lack of sunlight. Imagine, you survived the brutal cold, and your body is slowly breaking down from the inside simply because there's too little sunlight in winter. The real reason humans survived the Ice Age might surprise you. It wasn't strength, and it wasn't fire. It was cooperation. A lone individual in these conditions was almost certainly doomed. But a group of 15 to 30 people sharing food and warmth had a chance. Scientists believe extreme cold pushed humans to develop language and empathy. Things get even stranger when you look at what people actually ate. The diet was based on meat, including fat and bone marrow. Especially fat, concentrated energy that determined whether you'd live to see spring. What nutritionists today call unhealthy literally kept people alive back then. Now, what modern people get wrong. We think, things were hard back then, but now we have heating. What problems could we possibly have? But our bodies are still wired with that ancient survival logic. We still crave fatty food because our brains remember when extra fat meant life or death in winter. We still feel anxiety from loneliness because isolation used to be lethal. Meanwhile, our ancestors were solving, will my family survive until spring, every single day, for years, with no days off. And here's the main lesson. Everything you take for granted today, a warm apartment, food in the fridge, is not humanity's normal state. It's the result of tens of thousands of years of trial, error, and solutions found at enormous cost. Every needle, every fire, every hut built from mammoth bones was someone's answer to the question, how do I not die tonight? We're not descendants of the strongest people of that era. We're descendants of the ones who knew how to share and keep going, even as the world turned into a frozen wasteland. And here's the last thought I want to leave you with. Next time life feels overwhelming, remember, 20,000 years ago, your distant ancestor was sitting by a fire that could go out at any second, not knowing if he'd live to see morning. And he made it. So well, in fact, that 20,000 years later, You're watching this video on a device that fits in your pocket. So maybe, just maybe, it's worth being a little grateful for your thermostat.